You ever walk into a place you built and feel like a stranger? That's how my Tuesday started. Like I'd wandered into someone else's life by mistake. I was wearing a navy blazer, my usual briefcase, the kind of calm you earn after years of building something from nothing. And within seconds, a young manager looked at me like I didn't belong and tried to escort me out. Yeah, that actually happened. And it's one of those moments that stays with you not because of the embarrassment, but because of what you decide to do next. My name is Dr. Maya Ellis. I founded Harborstone Trust years ago because I believed banking could be different. Fair, practical, human. That afternoon, I stepped into the downtown lobby at 2:47 p.m., expecting a quick meeting, a signature, the small chores of running a company. Instead, I walked into a scene that felt like it had been scripted by every biased assumption I'd ever witnessed. Ethan Clark, 3 months on the job, MBA, fresh posture full of authority and none of the humility, looked me up and down and said loud enough for half the room to hear, "Ma'am, this is private property. You can't just come in here and demand things." His voice had that particular seasoning, equal parts entitlement and surprise that a black woman could be anything other than a problem. Phones came out. People started recording. The security guard, Miguel Garcia, edged forward because that's what his training told him. Lena Park, the assistant manager, rounded the corner from the back office with that deer-in-the-headlights look of someone who's learned you follow the manager's lead, no questions asked. I put my briefcase on the desk, slow and deliberate, and said, "I'm here for routine business." Calm, clear, not dramatic. Ethan scoffed. "Routine business. You have an account here to merit our attention." Like the word routine didn't belong on someone who looked like me. I pulled my wallet out and let it hang open long enough for anyone paying attention to notice the platinum black card inside. It flashed a second in the light, and then I closed it. Ethan never saw it. He saw only what he assumed. He told security to remove me. Someone in the corner, Tina Lopez, started a live stream for her Justice channel and whispered into her phone, "Y'all are seeing this, right?" Her viewers jumped. Ours turned into an audience overnight. I have a strange relationship with anger. I feel it, sure, but I try not to hand it back like a weapon. That day, I checked my watch, a small practical thing, and said quietly, 2 minutes. Not a threat, just a line in the sand. Ethan took it as arrogance. He called corporate. I called someone else. 15 seconds on my phone, and I said 3 words. Code 7, downtown. And hung up. People around me couldn't place who I called. They couldn't have known that the name on my screen matched the name on the corporate directory. The lobby shifted. You could feel it, like a tide noticing the moon. Ethan already looked thinner, smaller somehow. The live chat on Tina's stream exploded. Viewer count climbed into the thousands. Noah Reed, a local blogger with a nose for breaking things, and breaking them well, pushed through the door and started filming. Cameras from every angle were now witnesses to the exact moment a man decided a woman did not belong. Then the doors opened and Daniel Price, regional vice president, barreled in like he'd been chasing a fire alarm. He doesn't run. Nobody at his level runs. He scanned the room, spotted me, and his face turned from confusion to horror. "Dr. Ellis," he said out of breath, "I'm so sorry." Those 2 words had weight. They hit Ethan like ice water. For the first time, Ethan looked like someone who understood consequences might follow. We moved upstairs. The elevator felt slow and ceremonial, the kind of slow that lets you rehearse everything you might say but rarely gives you courage to speak it. I projected calm because outrage in that room would probably get edited into 1,000 different narratives. Daniel explained the Code 7 to the board. I connected my tablet to their conference screen and played the live stream that had been recording my humiliation. There it was, Ethan's voice, casual and cruel. "People like you come in here every day with complaints." You could almost hear the teeth behind the words. I asked Ethan one simple question. "Would you like to explain that to the board?" He stumbled. "I didn't recognize her," he mumbled. I looked at him and said, "So you treat people differently based on who they are, not what they do, but who they appear to be." It's a small surgical question, but it's merciless in a room of people whose reputations hinge on measured answers. His silence did the rest of the work. I had options: legal routes, media statements, dramatic firings. I wanted something that would actually fix the thing that had made all this possible, the tiny, almost invisible decisions that become policies. I proposed what I later called the Ellis Protocol: mandatory bias training for every customer-facing employee, real-time monitoring of interactions with an automated flag when discriminatory language appears monthly, diversity audits, and a transparent reporting structure. I explained it like a businesswoman because at its core it is. The math showed risk: potential lawsuits, regulatory fines, brand erosion. The math also showed opportunity: untapped markets, improved customer retention, real revenue uplift if we were the first mover on ethical banking. They voted. Not all heroes wear capes. Sometimes they sign papers. Ethan was given a choice: resign with a modest severance or be terminated for cause. He chose the first. I wasn't there for public shaming. I wanted the systems to change, so a manager's ignorance didn't become a policy. The board approved the reforms within the hour. Social media exploded. The story hit local news, then regional, then national. The NAACP called. The mayor's office wanted to talk about minority business partnerships. Overnight, the narrative shifted from a viral outrage clip to a potential case study in institutional change. 6 weeks later, I walked back into that same lobby. The marble was the same shore, but the energy was different. Olivia Cruz ran the branch now. She had years in the community banking and a reputation for treating people like people. Posters on the wall read, "Respect for all," in 3 languages. Our new software flagged a microaggression by a teller within days, a harmless-sounding "speak up" that was masking impatience toward an older customer with an accent. Instead of spiraling into a complaint, it became a coaching moment. Lena Park, who had stood at Ethan's side, had been moved into a training track. Miguel Garcia, the guard who had edged forward that day, now led security training about intervention, how to assess rather than assume. Numbers followed the change. Customer satisfaction rose. Complaints dropped. New accounts opened, especially among communities that used to avoid us. Our stock ticked up, not because we had a charismatic CEO on camera, but because people responded to a bank that corrected itself and documented the fix. The Ellis Protocol cost money to implement, training tech audits, but the ROI was clear in retention and brand growth. Competitors took notice. A few announced similar programs. Regulators who had been circling shifted from suspicion to interest. But this isn't just about balance sheets. It's about the small, everyday dignity that gets handed back to people when institutions choose to be better. It's about a security guard learning that his job includes defending someone from bias, not only detaining them, or an assistant manager discovering she can be part of solutions instead of excuses. It's about a young manager's career being redirected, for the better we hope, to learning rather than hiding. A year on, we held a celebration in that very lobby. Community leaders, staff, customers who had once watched me walk in like an intruder. They were there, and the room hummed with something quiet and hopeful. Tina, the woman who had live-streamed the beginning of the story, turned her camera to the crowd and said, "This is what accountability looks like." I stood there and listened to people tell me stories of how change had touched them personally. A small business owner getting a loan she wouldn't have gotten before a young black woman deciding she wanted to apply for a job at the bank because she finally saw herself being treated fairly. I won't pretend that everything fixed itself overnight. Systems fight back. Old habits reassert. People who profit from the status quo find ways to resist. But what that Tuesday taught me is that when you pair dignity with strategy, when you turn a personal affront into a policy that prevents the next one, the reach is wider than any single moment of humiliation. So here's where I want you in this story. Have you ever been assumed to be less than because of how you look, where you're from, or your name? Did you speak up or walk away? Is there a time you watched someone in that moment and did nothing? I want you to tell me, not just to vent, but because your story matters. Comment below with what you think is the better path: accountability that reforms systems or retribution that punishes individuals. Do you believe institutions can change from the inside, or is public pressure the only lever that works? If this resonated, share it. If it pissed you off, say so. If you want more stories about people who turned personal injustice into something that improved the world. For others, subscribe. Sometimes the loudest way to be heard is to build something so solid that no one can pretend you didn't belong. What would you do if the tables turned? And who would you want beside you?